Hey, what's going on, everybody? It's Hector Garcia, founder of SiteJab, and wanted to come to you guys today. And if you don't know who I am, I run a marketing / website agency in Texas, and been doing websites since 1998, marketing since 2000, and we help local businesses get found online. We're actually officed out of right here out of West Houston. So today I want to talk about one thing that we get, and I hope you guys had a great weekend, by the way. One of the things that we always get, one of the questions that's always presented to me is, why are my leads inconsistent? So you'll notice, if you're a business owner and you're watching, you'll notice that 1 week your leads are, you're getting a great number of leads 1 week, and the next week it goes down. 1 month you'll get double the amount of leads, and next month that number goes down. And there is a many variety of reasons of why those numbers fluctuate. And we're going to talk about that a little bit about today, just 3 to 5 minutes to do that. But one of the biggest things to understand why your leads are inconsistent or why they're constantly changing is you have to understand consumer behavior. Consumer behavior is basically, if you look at your behavior and why you buy, or why you're purchasing certain items, from whether it's a car, or why do you go to a certain restaurant, or why do you go to a certain dentist, or why do you use air conditioning, whatever, or a roofing company, your behavior is impacted by your environment, and your environment revolves around several different things. And it could be, for instance, most people in Texas, if you're going to use an air conditioning company, you're going to use air conditioning majority when it's hot. And when is it hot? It's hot in the summertime. It's hot, really, well, in Texas, it's hot from April to October. But in those times is typically the times when you're going to get, and if you're a business owner, if you run a HVAC company, you're going to see where these spikes in number of calls are consistent with that element, with that environment. So, you got to look at your customer. You got to look at your demographics. So if you're a business owner, look at your demographics. And so we're going to kind of talk a little bit about the environment of what causes your leads to be inconsistent. Number one is seasonal. We talked about the air conditioning company. People buy based off seasons, and in the home improvement industry, typically home improvement. And if you were in the home improvement industry, consumers typically buy when? Typically spring, right? So right after January, we call it right after January up to middle of May, we call that home improvement season. That's why it goes around with the saying spring cleaning, and people are focusing on planting and gardening and doing things to fix at the house. So if you're a business owner and you run a home improvement business, maybe springtime is your best time, right? People are doubling down on making home improvement costs or purchases during that time. And that's maybe a time for you to really shine and really stand out. And so there's different dynamics in place. So seasonal, for many businesses, we notice that if there's home improvement, health, medical, you'll notice that towards the holidays, from right before Thanksgiving to the end, right after Christmas to the beginning of January, there's a dramatic slowdown of interest and number of leads. So seasons definitely has a big part of that. Another reason of why your leads might be impacted or they're inconsistent is economic reasons. People are impacted by a variety of ways. I've seen where consumers are they wanted to wait till the election that happened back in November. They wanted to see what the economic fallout or the economic impacts of what would happen after the election. So far, the economy looks good. It looks like it's roaring back, and so consumer confidence is coming back. So there's very limited economic factors. Now, one thing that you have to look out for is, like, for instance, cost of gasoline, cost. So when things are costing more, whether it's groceries or if it's gas or oil, whatever it is, when things cost more, people seem to be limiting their spending. And so that has a factor. Another factor that we find too as well is why there is a variances in your lead volume, it's going to be your competition. You could not only are you dealing with the environment factors of seasons, you're not just dealing with the economic factors, you're also dealing and fighting off your competition. Your competition is going to be, that's inconsistent too as well. You might find where one weekend or 1 week when you're advertising and you're seeing that, wow, I'm getting great number of leads this week, number of phone calls is fantastic, and then the following week it just plummets, and it just notices half the volume. Well, when we do research and we look back at what the root cause of that is that we look at, well, not only everything lined up, but we also looked at that week where the competition was definitely up by 70% or more, online advertising or online advertising anywhere really, and so there's only a certain number of pool of inventory or consumers that are interested in your product, right? So if you have, for instance, 50 people that are interested in roofing today, just say today, 50. Here in the Houston market, we have probably roughly anywhere between 200, 300 roofing companies, maybe more. Well, and today you have probably at 200, 300 roofing companies, you have roughly half of that number of roofing companies now fighting and advertising and marketing for those 50 customers. And I'm pretty sure there's more than 50 looking for roofing right today, but just prime example. So if all of a sudden 150 roofing companies that were advertising jumped to 300 that were advertising, there's a dramatic number of competition that's now fighting over that 150. The increase of people who are interested in roofing has not increased dramatically, but your competition has increased dramatically. Prime example, Hurricane Harvey. We were marketing for in the home improvement industry. And we noticed that right after Hurricane Harvey, we had a huge spike of sales, huge spike of interest in leads, because a lot of the consumers in the Houston and Texas market needed to have their homes redone. They needed carpeting, they needed roofing, they needed windows. And that wave actually lasted for a while. There was a consistent double or triple the amount of normal leads for our home improvement clients. And the issue with that was that the competition from outside in other states, they were all coming to Texas. They were all coming to Houston. And to come into Houston, they were now adding to the pool of competition. Now, what ended up happening was that after a while, about 10, 12 months after Hurricane Harvey, the interest and number of people needing home improvement projects have dropped dramatically because their homes were being fixed and repaired. But yet we were left in response with double or triple the amount of competitors that were now in the market that weren't here before Hurricane Harvey. And so after Hurricane Harvey, you're now, let's say you're a roofing company or you're a window company, you're now seeing that that now you're back normal to pre-Harvey numbers with, let's say, 50 people looking for roofing, but now you have 500 roofing companies fighting over that 50. That 500 was not there before. So competition is huge when it comes to impact and amount of that. And then finally, your budget. Your budget is going to be it's going to be another part of the environment. Cost of advertising increases. I wish that things would stay the same. Unfortunately, there's times we have to come to our customers and say, hey, the cost of ad spend is increasing. There is a limited. So what causes the ads to increase? It's usually the supply and demand. If there is a lot of supply and not demand, then cost of advertising is cheap, right? If there is a lot of demand and very little supply, then the cost of advertising is very expensive and it causes to go up. So anything, whether you're advertising on TV, radio, or if you're even advertising on Google, if you're familiar with Google ads, then you see that the cost per click. So for instance, sometimes we've seen where a cost per click for a certain industry would be $2, $3 per click. 12 months later, impacted by supply, impacted by demand, of that specific keyword, it's now $20, $30 per click. We've even seen Google AdWords as high as $80 to $100 per click. So you got to understand these factors. Now, in our case, we're pretty much hitting our goals across the board. I've always told our business owners and our clients that to not look at things on a weekly level, but look at things at a monthly level. It's much easier to manage, much easier for us to, much easier also on yourself. It's very stressful. We start looking at things on a week-to-week basis. But if you start looking at things at a monthly level, that's when you can really, truly see the get a more handle and understanding of how things work. If you look at, there's too many things that goes into play on understanding the things on a weekly basis. There's a lot of factors, and in fact, I'm going to share something that's really interesting that I didn't mention earlier. Was that if you look at this chart, this is actually a chart for all of our clients here, the call volume here. And let me share that screen. So this chart here is actually showing the call volume in the last year. And if you look at, we talked about factors of people who, this is, factors what goes into, consumer leads and why it's inconsistent. This chart here actually gives a pretty good, it pretty communicates exactly what I'm talking about. So this is a number of calls for all of our clients. And you'll see here, January 2020, we had over 3,365 phone calls that were generated that we were tracked for all of our clients. In June of 2020, we had 4,454, and then consistent there. Now, could you guess what happens here? What's happening in March and what's happening in April? If you guess COVID, that is correct. COVID was a really big factor for consumer confidence. Look at this. And so huge dip here, but then it went right back. So it tells us that consumer confidence is back on board. But this explains here too as well why why leads are inconsistent and why you're seeing those inconsistencies. So if you're a business owner, you're watching this, if you're running a business and wondering why your phones are dipping and it's constantly changing, number one, I would suggest that you look at the consumer behavior. And number two, make sure you're not looking at things on a week-to-week basis, but you look at things on a monthly basis. If not, you'll have a lot of sleepless nights worrying about that 1 week. Anyways, and then number three, if you need help and you need your phones to ring and need emails coming in on a consistent basis month to month, please give us a call. I'm Hector Garcia, and hire us at SiteJab, 713-999-4661. Thanks for watching. I hope that this was informative to you guys, and see you guys next week.